Now, I love the Pokemon TCG, but let me tell you, there have been some cards that have been way too strong and game breaking, meaning you could lose games before you've had the chance to do anything turn 1 if your opponent just had these crazy cards in their hand. Don't believe me? Well, watch this video to the end and I will show you one of these game breaking cards that I know for a fact that you have played and are still playing right now. What if I told you this little Shifty card from Next Destiny single-handedly had a whole format on lockdown and make the Pokemon TCG unplayable? Like, you would lose the game before you've even had a chance to take a turn. How? Well, you see, Shifty had the ability Giant Fan, which when you evolve it lets you flip a coin. If heads, you can pick one of your opponent's Pokemon and shuffle it back into their deck. If tails, nothing happens. This doesn't sound too great, right? I mean, sure, turn 2 with a rare candy, 50% of the time you might be able to shuffle in one of your opponent's Pokemon, but the other 50% of the time you have jammed in a stage 2 into your deck for no reason. Like, what do you actually use to attack with in a Shifty deck? Well, here's the fun bit. Fun. You don't attack. In fact, you can never actually attack. You played no energies. But how would you win games then? Well, you see, in the expanded format, Forest of Giant Plants allowed your grass types to evolve on the first turn they were put into play. This meant if you had a grass type Seedot and Nuzleaf, you could actually rush a Shifty into play in a single turn. Doesn't stop there though, because what if I told you you could warp this deck to be able to get upwards of 4 Shifty out in a single turn? I hear you asking right now, how can you get more than 4 Shifties in a turn if you can only run 4? How is this possible? Well, you see, cards like Scoop Up Cyclone would let you pick up a whole Shifty line and put it all back into your hand. And as long as Forest of Giant Plants was still in play, you could put them all straight back down again. Super Scoop Up did the same thing as Scoop Up Cyclone, but on a coin flip, and Devolution Spray let you pick up the top stage and put it back into your hand, making you put it onto a different Nuzleaf. The rest of the deck was chock full of turbo cards, like Trainer's Mail, which let you look at the top 4 cards and take a trainer card from your deck, Bicycle, which lets you draw to your 4 cards in your hand, Acro Bike, which lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, take one and discard the other, and Recycle, which lets you on a coin flip put any card from your discard pile back to the top of your deck. This turned the Shifty deck into a machine, capable on your first turn of removing all your opponent's Pokemon from play, before they've even had a chance to have a turn yet. Crazy stuff. Like, when you actually sit down and think about it here for a second, how many times, if you're going second, have you had your opening hand and had at least 3 basic Pokemon in it? Because if you didn't, a Shifty deck could shuffle them all away before you've even had a chance to have a turn, meaning you would lose instantly. This even led to this little Boltoy card seeing play because of its barrier ancient trait ability, making it immune to effective abilities from your opponent's Pokemon. This means Giant Fang couldn't touch it, and since it was a basic, you could lead it, and a Shifty deck couldn't do anything about it, meaning Shifty players would auto-concede if they ever saw this Boltoy. Luckily, when Forest of Giant Plants got banned and expanded, Shifty became unplayable, saving the format and the Pokemon TCG with it. Happy days. While this card is gorgeous, and make no mistake about it, it looks incredible in binders, it was a terror for the player base when it was legal. You see, it was a stadium card that actually had different effects depending on which way it was facing. If the red side was facing you, your grass, fire and water Pokemon would do 20 less damage. Not too bad. It was the blue side that was the killer though. If the blue side was facing you, you could only have 3 bench Pokemon. This could be a massive hindrance for your opponent or a game-saving play for yourself. Let me explain. So if your opponent's board was chock full of random support Pokemon like Hooper, Shaman and Shaman, you could Parallel City lock them, making it unable for them to bench any more attackers. Really devastating and making it hard for them to get into the game. This could literally end games before they've even started, to be perfectly honest. However, the main way this staging was used is when you had a setup that was really good, let's say 2 Mega Mewtwo EXs and a basic Mew V on the bench and 2 Shaman, you could Parallel City yourself, forcing yourself down to 3 bench Pokemon. But here's the good bit, you would just discard the Shaman, removing all the easy prizes for your opponent, making it much harder for them to win the game. Both scenarios were absolutely back-breaking for your opponent and could sometimes make it an instant game winner if it hit the field at the right time. Not bad for a stadium card, all things considered. More Wild GX took an already super strong archetype and made it borderline unfair to play against, making it so if you went second, you could actually pretty much lose the game there and then before you've even had a chance to play a card. Yep, really. You see, on face value, more Wild GX seems really underwhelming. 170 HP? Rubbish. Its attacks weren't much better either. Wily Bite did 10 plus 30 for each bench Pokemon your opponent had in play. This maxes at 160 if your opponent had a full bench. Trash. And while Big Eater GX seems like it could steal some games, discarding all your supporters from your opponent's hand, this wasn't the main reason why Mawile was hated so much. People hated Mawile due to its ability Captivating Wink. This would activate when you bench Mawile, and it would let you look at your opponent's hand and bench any Pokemon you find there. At the time, the format was ran by Pokemon like Dedenne, which would let you discard your hand and draw 6 cards, Crobat V, which would let you draw up to 6 when you bench it, and Eldegoss V, which would let you grab a supporter from the discard pile when you bench it. What do all 3 of these format-defining cards that pretty much every deck played have in common? There were 2 things I need you to look out for. Have a go. Oh wait. That's right! The first thing is that they all have abilities that work when you put them into play. Mawile forces them onto your bench when it's not your turn, meaning those abilities do nothing. Absolutely back-breaking, meaning you now have these low HP 2-prize Pokemon on the bench taking up bench space, easy prizes, and you didn't even get to use them. Especially if the Mawile player did this on their first turn going first. This could potentially remove all your draw options from your hand, leaving you with nothing to do. But what is the next thing all those Pokemon have in common though? Yep, that's right. If you said they all have under 180 HP, you are 100% correct. Well done you. Why is this number so relevant though? You see, Mawile was played exclusively in the Arceus, Dialga, Palkia deck. This deck would aim to use Ultra Creation as fast as possible, making your Pokemon do an extra 30 damage for the rest of the game and take an extra prize card when you KO something. So imagine if you pulled off this GX attack and then forced your opponent to bench these low HP Pokemon that can be gobbled up very easily, and give up an extra prize card in doing so. Meaning these all gave up 3 prize cards in total. What made it even more insulting though is after you used Ultra Creation, Arceus, Dialga, Palkia's attack Ultimate Ray would now do 180 damage, meaning you could one-shot these bench hitters for 3 prize cards and also accelerate 3 energy from your deck to your Pokemon any way you like. And this pretty much wraps up any game you were playing as an ADP player if you had an Ultimate Ray onto a fresh attacker. Some sneaky ADP players even ran 2 more Wiles, like me, to try and fire off this game-ending ability twice, just in case the first one missed. Gross scenes. Hypnotoxic Laser was so strong, it certainly means we will never see an item card that can inflict multiple special conditions ever again. Hypnotoxic Laser was an item card that poisoned your opponent's active and then you flipped a coin. If heads, they were also asleep too. This means 25% of the time you played a Hypnotoxic Laser, your opponent's active would stay asleep, forcing them to find a switch, otherwise they couldn't attack, and then they lost a ton of pressure and their chances at winning their game. However, the main use of Laser was really as a maths fixer. So you could basically look at Laser as a plus power in pretty much all scenarios, meaning you would do an extra 10 damage. But what if I told you this card was better than a plus power because you actually had a way of boosting the damage by 30? How's that then? Well, you see, Laser existed at the same time as Burbank City Gym, which made poison Pokemon take an extra 2 damage in between turns. This means you now have a plus 30 damage at any time with a combination of 2 trainer cards from your hand. Imagine if that was in format now. Arceus would just need a Laser and a Burbank to do 200 damage turn 2 with Trinity Nova, or you could even swing up to 240 if you have a Choice Band or Vitality Band attached, meaning you could now KO Arceus V and Lugia's 2 turn 2 with a DTE attached. Game changing. Mew VMAX would essentially have another 4 power tablets. Think about how crazy that is already. Or Dialga V-Star of all things could play this combo to make Star Chronos hit 280 damage if you have a Choice Belt attached, allowing you to KO V-Star Pokemon and then immediately take a next turn. Honestly, Laserbank combo was way too good, and I am glad to see it go. I have saved the best till last though, because I cannot stand Battle VIP Pass and how bad it is for the Pokemon TCG. On face value, what's not to like about it? It helps players set up right, letting you grab 2 basic Pokemon and put them straight into play. This can help multi-prize decks like Rapid Strike Urshifu and Mew VMAX, and also help single prize decks like Lost Box and Chen Pao too. So surely a card that helps pretty much all decks can't be bad, can it? I mean, even look at the top 8 decks from the last World Championships. They all play Battle VIP Pass. Well, yes, you could be right. Except there's another little bit of text on Battle VIP Pass that says you can only play this card on your first turn of the game. And it's that text right there that makes Battle VIP Pass awful. Let me explain. Battle VIP Pass is the absolute king of making Pokemon TCG games very polarized. What do I mean by this? Well, imagine a game where you hit a Battle VIP Pass, or maybe even multiple, and your opponent doesn't. This, more times than not, puts you at a massive advantage, meaning the game will quickly snowball out of hand and making it unwinnable for your opponent. This difference is even greatly magnified if you went first too, making it to where if you go second and miss Battle VIP Pass, the game can often end right there and then. It doesn't stop there though, because not only are you at a massive disadvantage, missing the Battle VIP passes, but now your deck is objectively worse, making a comeback an even more monumental task and a pretty much impossible one. How is that? Because now you have 4 fully dead useless cards in your deck, watering down its effectiveness and clogging up your hand. But the absolute worst part about Battle VIP Pass though is that because its effect is so godly and so strong, you have no choice but to play it. Because if you swap them all out for, let's say, nest balls, while your opponent still had Battle VIP Pass, it wouldn't be a contest. You would still get blown out of the water. So honestly, I can't wait for Battle VIP Pass to rotate, because it's actually making the Pokemon TCG much worse to play. If you like this video, why don't you check out this video here, where we take a look at the forgotten but very strong archetypes in the Pokemon TCG.